So we have a canvas that measures 91.55 diagonally from this corner to this corner. The size that we want actually is 80 millimeters. Now I've gone ahead and created it with this uh, different size, and so I extruded my geometry, and let's see how far I extruded that. 3 millimeters, and then shelled it by 2 millimeters, and then added some fillets. So I'll put a couple of fillets on here. Let's turn off the canvas. And so here is the part that we have. Now let's go and see how we could do this at a different size. So I'm going to drag the timeline back to this first sketch. And I want to move this first sketch before the imported image. And I put this straight line in here as well because there is some text in the image, and I wanted to make sure that this text was horizontal. So I rotated the image to get it to horizontal. But let's drag the sketch before the image, and I'm going to right click or in the browser, I'll right click and I'll calibrate that image. And I want the distance from here to here to be 80 instead of the 91. So I'll put in 80. And so now that image, we see this point right here and this point right here. Now that's 80 across that image. And I also edit that canvas, and I rotated it to get this text horizontal relative to this horizontal line. So I've got the image on the canvas set up the way I want it. Now I want to sketch the geometry. So that's all I needed sketch number one for. And actually I might want to resize though this rectangle to show the bounding box of where the part is going to fit inside of that bounding box. But that's just for a visual reference, a sanity check that I can measure with my calipers to make sure I'm modeling this at the right size. That's all I needed that sketch for. I'll now hide that sketch, and I'm going to create a new sketch. Now I've already done this once, but I'm just going to do it over again. So I'll create a new sketch, and I'm going to do it on the XY plane, and I'm going to do a spline. There's a big transition right about here and a big transition that starts right about here. I'm just going to eyeball guess about where that starts and ends, about right there, about right there. Now I can move things around after I get this sketch. Now I'm going to go ahead and say okay. So my spline looks like a straight line, but notice these handles on the end of the spline, which I can now drag that handle and make that spline uh, match the artwork or the imported image as best I can. So I can change the angle, and I can also change the weight or how the influence that that handle has on the spline. Once I get it about where I want it, I'm going to lock that spline in position. Now normally I would put dimensions on here, but this is all artwork. I don't have any precise dimensions. So I'm going to lock this spline. And when I do that, notice that it turns green. The That's the color that indicates that it has a fixed or locked constraint on it. And so then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'll do the same thing over here, and I'll do the same thing over here. So let's go ahead and do this one. So I'll do a spline, and it starts to really transition about right in here. And so I'll click about right there and about right there. I want to use as few points as possible on my spline. In this case, I'm only using 2 points to define my spline, a beginning point and an end point. Beginners make the mistake of adding lots of points to their spline. That actually makes it more complex, not more precise. All right, so I've got that spline about where I want it. I will now fix that spline, and I'll do the next one. So I'll do a spline, and I'll do this from about right here over to about right here, and I'll drag those handles, the weight and the angle, to try to match this curve. Okay, that looks good. Maybe adjust it a little bit on this end. And I had a little bit of trouble getting that. What I might do is lock down that point, so just lock the point itself, not the spline, so that I don't accidentally move the point. Okay, so I got that about where I want it. So I'm going to lock this spline, and then I'll do this last one over here. Now you can always unlock this. This is a toggle. So you click on it to turn it on or click on it to turn it off. And then I'll do one more. I'm going to do it from here over to about here. I'll accept that. I'll adjust this handle. Okay, that curve looks good. It looks good down on that end. I'll lock it. All right, now I need to connect these curves together. And it might be easiest to see if I first just turn off that image. So I want to connect those lines together, or those splines. So I'm going to draw a line from here, or a spline from here to here, just the beginning point and end point. And let's just go ahead and do that on all four of these. So I'll do this one from here to here. And spacebar end the command, spacebar to get the command back, spacebar to end the commands. Actually, it's still in, so I don't have to hit spacebar again. And there I got my four splines. Now let's turn that image back on. And so we'll adjust the handles on this one. And I'll adjust this handle a little bit. And I'll adjust this handle a little bit. Okay, so I got that to where I want it. And then I'll do the next one. And so I'll adjust these. Now, if I need to, I can unlock any of my splines that I've created so that I can adjust those. So this is an iterative process to get it to look good. Now, actually, I forgot something that I wanted to do, so I'm going to undo those last few steps. I'm going to undo back to where these look like straight lines. Okay, so now that looks this straight line. I'm going to do a tangent on there. So I want to do tangent between this curve and this curve, and I'll do tangent between this curve and this curve. Now I don't like the way it made that tangent, so I'm going to undo that last step, and maybe I want to make this, drag this handle around close to where I want it. And so let's adjust these handles. Okay, so I'll get this handle. All right, now let's add that tangent in there. So I'll do tangent between this curve and this curve. And then I'll go back and check that. So I need to adjust this handle a little bit. I need to make sure I get the handle for this curve, not the handle for this curve. And so adjust that. Okay, but I want these two curves to be tangent to each other. That's why I added that tangent constraint to the curve. I'm going to drag this out a little bit further, angle it down a little bit. So I'm dragging the angle, dragging the weight of that curve. All right, so I've got that one. And then I'll do the next one. So I'll do tangent, and I want this curve to be tangent to this curve, and I want this curve to be tangent to this curve. And I like the way that looks just as it is, so I'm not even going to make any more changes to that one. I'm going to make this one tangent to this one, and I'll make this one that might not get the right tangent. Let's try it. Okay, it got it. And then I will drag that down a little bit. Okay, so I need to actually see, because it's tangent here, I can't change this angle as much as I would like, so I'm going to leave that one where it's at, and I'm going to drag this handle and get this out here. Okay, so I like that. Actually, it's a little bit too far. I like to drag this in back this way some. And I want to make sure I got the right one. So I don't want the handle on this one. I want the handle on this curve. And so I drag that back. And it's only let me change the weight on this one. I must have got the tangent between the handle and this rather than between the curves. But that looks pretty good right there. Let's try that. All right, and then I'm going to get this last one. So I'll select that and I'll do tangent. Actually, let's do the tangent, select the tangent first. I'll do tangent. I want this curve to this curve, and I want this curve to this curve, and then I'm going to drag that handle out a little bit. It's not letting me drag that one. Let's try this one over here. Okay, there we go. All right, I got that looking pretty good there. Okay, I can turn off the visibility of my canvas now, and I'm going to extrude this. So I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to go 3 millimeters, and then I'm going to do my shell. I'll select that. I'm going to do 2 millimeters. Now, if it's 2 millimeters from here to here, the maximum radius we could put on here is 1, because 1 plus 1 equals 2. Now, it may or may not let us do that as a radius of 1. Let's try it. So I'm going to select. I want to do a fillet. And I'll select this edge, and I'll select this edge. Now notice it isn't going all the way around, so I'll also select this edge and this edge. I'll select this edge. Now maybe we could select that face instead of selecting these individual edges. In this, that would select all of those edges at once. But I've already got them selected, so I'll go ahead and put in. I'm going to try the 1 millimeter, and it accepted it. If it didn't, I would put like 0.9999. That's essentially 1 millimeter. Let's rotate this around, and let's put a fillet on this end or this side. And again, I'll go around here and select these edges. I could select the face, and that would select all of those edges at once. Let's do that as 1 millimeter. And maybe if we wanted this one as 2 millimeters, um, whatever we want here. Now we'd have to be careful on the size of the fillet that we put in here. If we look at this in a section view, we'll go to an inspection, and we'll do a section view going through the middle of this thing. If we put this fillet, if we put it too big, it could come where it would go through this point right here, and it'd give us an invalid result if that occurred, if we put that fillet too big. All right, then if we want to change our color of that body, we just go to the properties or the appearance of that body, and we can pick a color appearance in the list of different colors down here. I used a paint, and so go into the paint and glossy paint, and so we see here's a bunch of different colors that we could use to apply, or something that looks like a material, say a fabric, if we wanted that. Now that's just an appearance. It doesn't change the actual geometry. And let's leave that analysis. And so there is our part at our new size. If we go back to sketch number 1 and we turn that on, and we'll go around and look at this, we see that that's now 80 millimeters from corner to corner, where originally I had it 91.55.